is a narration by Tales of Terra. You and I need to work together, brother. I need every one of your warriors tasked to this world's evacuation, not chasing relics and digging in the dust. One squad diverted to the preservation of knowledge will not affect your timetable, said Magnus. The secrets this world might hold are too precious to be so easily squandered. You really believe there is some ancient knowledge buried in Zarukin that will explain why Morningstar survived Old Night unscathed? I am certain of it, said Magnus. In anyone else, I would say such certainty was arrogant, sighed Perturabo, letting the data on the plotter table disperse like smoke. When have I ever been wrong about such things? Asked Magnus. Never, admitted Perturabo, stepping towards the sheet-covered workbenches at the perimeter of the mezzanine. But there is a first time for everything, and I need all your warriors on board. But here, I want to show you something. The Primarch pulled back a white sheet to reveal a haphazard arrangement of half-finished projects, contraptions of mysterious purpose, and beautiful arrangements of gears and motors. This is my workshop, said Perturabo. It is just as I expected, said Magnus, delightedly moving from bench to bench to examine the pieces lying around the edges of the workshop. He lifted a sheet of wax paper, laid beside a partially completed model of a grand amphitheatre. The Thaliacron, said Magnus. You've begun work on it? Not yet, said Perturabo. Soon. When the crusade is done, and we have heroic tales aplenty to fill it with song, then I'll build it. On the mountain, across from Father's palace. I will be there to see it unveiled, promised Magnus, and his enthusiasm for his brother's works was genuine and contagious. He and Perturabo spoke as brothers who had shared every memory from birth to this moment, yet they had known each other for only a few short years. Magnus had once spoken of how he and Perturabo had spent time together on Terra, recovering the relics of a long-dead polymath and unearthing arcana from the forgotten places of old Earth. Athava had thrilled to hear such tales, relishing every opportunity to learn more of his gene-sire. The obvious love between these godlike warriors filled the workspace with a swelling feeling of confraternity, a bond of brotherhood that could never be broken. This will be of interest to you, brother, said Perturabo, holding out a complex arrangement of curved metal, winding mechanisms and adjustable lenses. I made a replica of the Antikythera, just like you asked. To see so delicate a mechanism in Perturabo's hand seemed incongruous, as most apparatus bearing the stamp of the Iron Warriors that Athava had seen, save for those within this chamber, had been brutally functional. Does it work? I am not entirely sure, answered Perturabo. You never fully explained its intended purpose or how exactly it was designed to function. You've built it, said Magnus. What do you think it does? I believe it to be some form of navigational instrument, said Perturabo, lifting the device to look through one of its eyepieces. It has the look of a sextant once used by seafarers, but with infinitely more dimensions to its operation. What manner of ocean would you be navigating to require such a device? The Great Ocean, said Magnus. It allows even those without our gifts to perceive the realm beyond. Perturabo nodded and set down the Antikythera. I suspected as much, he said with a sigh, turning to lift something heavy from another part of his workbench. You remember what our father told us in the Hall of Leng, when he spoke of the warp and the danger of looking too deeply into its heart? I do, said Magnus. But this has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with that, as well you know, but we will speak of this later. Perturabo's arm swung around, and he smashed the delicate mechanisms of the Antikythera with a heavy hammer. The metal of the device buckled and split, the precision ground lenses shattering into 1,000 fragments. Brother! No! Cried Magnus, as the pieces fell to the floor. Why? Perturabo replaced the hammer on his workbench and said, Because I will play no part in aiding you into delving into things you have been told to leave well alone. Our father knows more than us. He has seen further than us. If he tells us there are regions of the warp into which even he does not dare look, then we are beholden to accept that. Magnus stared at the ruined device in disbelief. Such a piece was the work of a master, a treasure that ought to have been held up as the epitome of the craftsman's art. Athava saw Magnus's aura darken, like blood in the water. Knowing what you suspected, you could have destroyed the Antikythera at any time after its completion, said Magnus with a cold and controlled anger. But you waited until I was here to see you do it. Why? Because you needed to see it destroyed to truly understand. Magnus let out a breath. You have a cruel streak in you, brother, he said. Perhaps, conceded Perturabo. But sometimes cruelty is the only way to make a point so clearly that nobody can ever mistake its intent.